Hi everybody, welcome to another video. This one's the Iwata or Airgunza Iwata AZ3 in a 1.8, this one, using it for priming. Those of you who watch the channel would have, or may have seen an unboxing video. Well, it wasn't an unboxing video really, it was just like a guns update really. And I got the AZ3 and an AZ4 in 1.3, which I've been very impressed by, and this, the AZ3 in 1.8. So I said it's the AZ3 HTE2, which is the newer version of it. This is actually a British Bulldog version, but it's just a special edition thing. I don't think you pay any more money for it. I actually got a pair of them. Again, if you watch the channel, you know that I got a pair of them. I can't remember what it was now. It's about 160 quid for the two, and it's because it come with a set, and the guy wanted the WS400, but he didn't really want these two, so I got these two quite cheap. Anyway, you know, this is I think this is the first or second time. No, it's the second time I used it for primer, but it's a 6 gallon. Again, you'll see me doing a stripping video of it. It's a 6 gallon motorcycle tank, so it's a huge cavernous thing. As you can see, this is the inside of it, and I'm able to get the. Normally, when you're trying to do the inside of fuel tanks, you have a problem with the pot hitting the side of the tank, or can do, which is why I quite like small pots on the bigger guns. But this is a full-size pot, a full-size gun, and it, as you can see, when it's on the inside of the tank, it actually makes it look quite small. So this is a huge tank. Actually I've done the base coat and the top coat or lacquer video of it as well, and it actually took 400 millilitres of paint to do the base coat, which is it's sort of like 1.5 doors on a car really. That sort of paint, or even more, maybe 2 doors. Certainly on a sort of like an average saloon type car, it'd be 2 doors for that sort of paint. So you can see it's a huge tank. So quite a good test, I think, of this gun, because it gave me quite a lot of spraying time effectively. Again, if you saw the unboxing video, or I call it unboxing video, the sort of like new gun review, you'll know that initially, straight out of the box, there was a few problems with this gun that I wasn't particularly happy with. Well, one of them was a didn't feel right, didn't sound right problem, and the other one was a proper problem. The first one was it was a really squeaky trigger, really squeaky, and it made it sound really cheap and nasty. And I just put, I was going to take the actual assembly out, but I just put a little bit of Vaseline on the pin. You know, the pin that the trigger pushes in? I just put a little bit of Vaseline on the outside of that, or petroleum jelly, sorry, Vaseline's a trade name, isn't it? Petroleum jelly on the round part of the pin, and just pushed it in a couple of times, so it was effectively taking the jelly into the gun. And it just, on the outside there, you've got a few seals, and if they get dry, they can get quite squeaky. And it did the trick fine. It sounds absolutely fine now, and the gun sounds great. So when you're pulling it in and out without the air going through, or with the air going through, you're not getting this horrible squeaky sound that you was. So that was an easy remedy. The other one was the packing gland for the needle. There's a packing gland at the front, so it's behind the tip where the needle goes through to get to the tip. There's a packing gland there, and I said it on the video, it was loose. The nut was actually loose, and if you tightened it up enough that the nut was tight enough not to come undone, the needle was really stiff. Even with a spring in the back and everything, the needle was really stiff, and not good at all really. So I put some Loctite on it, put it to about the right amount to grip the needle. No fluid was coming through, and put some Loctite, some red Loctite on it, or thread lock as they say, to keep it there basically. And that seems to have worked fine. I mean, I don't immerse the gun in thinners. I clean the the gun through with thinners, obviously take the needle out, tip off, etc., and then wash over with a brush the outside. So I treated it like any other gun, and have done for the past 3 or 4 times. This video is actually about, I'm narrating it now, but it was done about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, and it's been fine. So both of them are relatively easy cure, but you shouldn't have to do either on a new gun, really, should you? I mean, you should expect a new gun, you might clean it out because the manufacturer puts a little bit of grease or whatever on the needle and the tip, etc., for transport, to make sure everything stays you know, corrosion free. I mean, it's all stainless steel, so it shouldn't corrode, but you know what I mean. So you might expect to do that with a new gun, but you shouldn't be thinking of doing running repairs, really, should you? But you know, I mean, if it was a new gun that I bought from somewhere and it was a local shop, I'd probably taken it back and said, you know, can you give me another one, or money back, probably. Anyway, we got there, and it you know, it's working fine. It sounds fine, and it's working fine. So let's get on to its actual workings. I was very disappointed, to be honest. Very is probably too strong. I was disappointed. Its fan's quite small. If you saw me at the start of the video, I did I literally started on the underneath, and I just tried a bit on the paper that you see next to the gun on the right hand side there, because I thought there wasn't much coming out, and with full fan, full fluid, so you know, you should get a reasonable amount out on a 1.8, even though the material's thicker. But it just didn't. The fan size isn't particularly big. Maybe it's because it's such a big tank. I noticed it more. If it was a smaller tank, I probably wouldn't have noticed it. But having used the FLG5 for priming, and my current favourite, which is the F160 for priming, in this sort of price range anyway, which is about 110, 120 UK pounds, which is about 165 US dollars at the moment. In this sort of price range, the F160 is my favourite gun, followed closely by the FLG5, which is the SPK, I think we call it in the States, SPK 600VV. I'm getting to know these, you see. And that's my favourite. The F160 in one. It's actually 1.9, so it's a little bit bigger tip. It's by far my favourite priming gun at the moment, and I expected this to be somewhere near them, but it's, in my view, it's a fair way off. To be fair with a gun, it's a fair way off. It doesn't atomise as well as either the FLG5 or the F160. The fan size seems smaller than both. The F160 has a bigger fan than the FLG5, but this seems smaller than both of them, which isn't the end of the world, because if you're doing smaller stuff like me, I mean, obviously this is a huge tank, but normally I'm doing smaller stuff. Something that doesn't have a huge fan isn't the end of the world. It makes it quicker, it makes it easier, but it's not the end of the world. If you were getting really good atomization and a really good finish from the gun, you would forgive it, because it's just something that takes a bit longer. If you're doing it for a living, maybe it would get to be a pain, because time's money at the end of the day. But if you're doing it like me as a hobby, you don't mind if something takes 2 minutes longer to do or whatever, you know. And I would think a lot of people that watch this channel may well think the same. You know, if you're getting a good finish, you don't mind if it's a bit slower or whatever. But there was no sort of no payoff with this. It wasn't giving you a better finish for the fact that it was giving you a smaller fan or anything. So yeah, I was very, very disappointed with it. You know, if you forgive the failings when you first get it, you know, the really squeaky trigger and the gland nut not doing up properly, and not finding a position where it could be done up properly without the aid of something to hold it in there, i.e., you know, thread lock. Then if you was to forgive it for that and it painted well, then you would think, oh well, you know, it's just a teething problem or whatever. But it doesn't paint that well. It's acceptable. You know, you wouldn't, if this was your only priming gun, you wouldn't say, oh, I definitely need to get a new priming gun. But if you're in my sort of position where, you know, collecting guns is a bit of a hobby, and using them is just a way of rating what ones you like, what ones you don't, and what ones you keep and what ones you don't, etc. Then, you know, you wouldn't bother picking this gun up really. If you've got other ones, you'd use those instead. As I say, the FLG and the F160 are the two that springs to mind with me. You would just use them. And I know this is high build primer, it's a 1.8 tip, so you're not going to be spraying, you could, but you're probably not going to be spraying wet on wet. So, and for those that don't know, wet on wet primer is effectively, it's like I would call it a base coat primer, so you treat it like a base coat. It's not something you sand down afterwards normally, whereas the high build, which is going on here, you would sand it down afterwards. The wet on wet you wouldn't. You'd normally use a finer tip, say 1.5, something like that, 1.4, depending on what manufacturer it says. So you probably wouldn't want this gun to do that anyway, but you can get it in 1.3s and 1.4s, I think. What that performs like, I don't know, but I wouldn't bother trying, to be fair, because after using this and feeling it, etc, I wouldn't bother buying another Airgunza AZ3 at all, because it's just no point. I mean, if it was half the price of the other guns that I've mentioned, great, good gun for that sort of money, but it's not. It's the same price. In fact, it's a bit dearer, same price as FLG and a bit dearer than the F160. So, you know, to me, it's an acceptable spray gun. It's adequate. It does the job, but there's absolutely nothing to write home about at all. You know, it does what it says reasonably well, but you wouldn't do. I wouldn't buy another one, to be honest. And it's strange because the AZ4 in 1.3 I've been really pleased with, especially as a clear gun. I haven't tried it on base actually. I tried it as a clear gun quite a few times, and it's been really good. I've been so impressed with that. I have since got an AZ4 in 1.0, which is a different air cut, runs at different pressure, and I haven't been so impressed with that. I used that for base coat. I think I did a comparison video. It's not up yet, but I did a comparison video of that and the W400. I recently got a W400, which is one of the bargains of my particular year, off eBay. I got it for 70 quid, that's about 4 quid postage, which is about, what's that, about 100 US, 95 US. And I've only used it a few times, and it's a WB, so it's ideally for water based, but I've used it for solvent, which is what I use most of the time. In UK we're allowed to use solvent on motorcycle stuff, and I've been really impressed with the W300, so I picked the AZ4 up against that, both of them 1.0 tip, and the W300 was much better. So I haven't been so impressed with the AZ4 sorry, I haven't been so impressed with the AZ4 in 1.0 as I have with 1.3. The 1.3 for clear has been exceptional. So it's not, sorry, just having some coffee. It's not per se that I don't like Airgunza or Iwata Airgunza. It's just that this, as I say, this gun did disappoint really. And you know, as I say, it's high build primer, so you're going to sand it down afterwards, so it doesn't have to be the flashish finish. I think you can see here when you're using it, it's just struggling really to put that much out. I mean, it's putting it out okay, but it's just compared to the other two, especially compared to the F160, it just seemed to struggle to put enough out really. and certainly didn't lay it down as well. I mean, it looks okay on the video because it's it's a matte finish, so it tends to look reasonably okay. And as I say, you sand it down, so it's not the end of the world that it doesn't lay it that flat. It's just that when you know there are other guns that do lay it flatter, and at the end of the day, if something lays primer flatter, then what it's doing is it's saving you a bit of time in the sanding process, and you know, maybe a coat or so, because if you can get it on flatter, you may only need 3 coats instead of 4 coats, which saves you time, and it also saves you also saves you a bit of money because you're using less material, which to the amateur may not be the end of the world. If you're like me, you know, you buy your primer in a 5 litre or 5 plus 2 litre, well actually it's 4 plus 2.5 litres I think of hardener. You buy that and it probably lasts you, for me it probably lasts a year, so you don't use loads of it. But you know, if you're going to save a bit of material, then it's probably worth having. And if you get a gun that lays it on smooth to start with, then it's got to be, you know, got to be worth having and saves you time. Anyway, thanks for watching the videos, guys. I'm about to lose my voice here, so thanks for the likes and subscribes and that, and I'll keep the videos coming. Cheers, guys. Bye bye.